Hey, listen, hi. I'm having real problems with my feed here. The sound just isn't coming through. It keeps hanging with a big circle. Actually, we just had the most awful question from a most awful MP asking about what a woman is and all the horrible stuff. Here we go.
Is
Here's
absolutely right.
The leader
of the opposition's record on women is questionable at best, Mr. Speaker. And before Labour do start preaching about this issue, they should work out the answer to one very simple question. I'm certain what a woman is he.
Oh my God! This is where we are. This is where we are now in British politics. It's pathetic, absolutely pathetic.
Can I join the Prime Minister in paying tribute to the brave British personnel involved in the evacuation effort from Sudan?
You, for instance.
The government must do everything in its power to urgently evacuate UK nationals still trapped in Sudan.
Absolutely abysmal performance by the Tories.
Yesterday, George Osborne said that the Tory party's handling of the economy makes them vandals. He's right, isn't he?
Yeah.
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, while we're in the business of quoting former chancellors and shadow chancellors, I don't know if he saw the remarks from a former Labour shadow chancellor yesterday, who said our country had faced 4 once-in-a-century shocks, threats to our economy, and the fact that we've come through it is a triumph, Mr.
How have we
Speaker.
come through it? How have we come through it? We've got the highest energy bills in the world.
That former
come through it, my arse.
Not only said there were a bunch of Tory vandals, he also said there was a self-induced financial crisis on the country. That's those vandals.
Yeah, intersex and trans people
exist. And they like to pretend that it was all just one week of madness.
But this is all they've got.
Autumn.
Culture wars,
but the truth
refugees.
Is,
culture wars, refugees.
13 years of failure.
Yeah, 13 years of failure.
Real wages, the money in people's pockets have fallen by £1,600 per household. £1,600
per household.
The Prime Minister's response? To impose 24 Tory tax rises in 3 years. 24. How on earth does he think his low-growth, high-tax economy is working for working people?
It's really
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, because of the action that we've taken on the national living wage at record levels, on pension, on universal credit, and the generous cost of living payments, just yesterday, Mr. Speaker, almost 8 million households receiving direct support from this Conservative government. We are supporting working people. But just this week, Mr. Speaker, in the other place, we've seen his party
You've never worked a day in your life, mate. You've had some meetings
and with picketers. He should actually try backing working people.
What? What, like the Tories do? What?
Plus £1,600 worse off.
Yeah,
Mr. Speaker, I'm genuinely fascinated to know, does he really think that everything's fine, or is he just clueless about life outside of his bubble?
He is absolutely clueless because he's a multi-millionaire, he's born a millionaire,
because of the actions that we have taken. Well, let's just go over it.
He won't spend any time with people like you.
Working full-time on the national living wage. This year
national
will
living
get
wage.
£1,300
You earn more in
support
interest
from
a
this
day
government.
than
A
most
working
people
couple on low income with two children
earn
will
in a
get
year for working.
£1,800, Mr. Speaker.
You earn
That's
more
what delivering
in
for working
interest
looks
in a
like.
day
But if he
on
has
your
any actual
fortune than
ideas
most
for
people
the
earn in a
economy,
year.
he should say so,
Working
because all
wages.
I
What are
hear
you
from the
talking
party
about?
opposite is more
You tax
spending,
wages,
more
mate.
borrowing,
You love
higher
taxing the
inflation, higher
working
interest rates.
people of
It's
this
the
country.
same old Labour Party.
How about we have a wealth tax for people like you who haven't done anything to deserve the amount of money you've got?
And I've never heard anything so out of touch as the answer that he has just given. And it's not just his refusal to take any responsibility for the damage they've done, the crashed economy, the hit to living standards. It's also he refuses to take the action that's needed. He could stop the handouts he's giving to oil and gas giants.
He could for carbon capture, bullshit, greenwashing.
He could put
so
that
much
money
damage.
back in the hands of working people and get the NHS back on its feet. That's what a Labour government would do.
Too busy bullying people, mate, to do anything.
Why doesn't he?
Bullying and culture wars. That's all the Tories are.
Mr. Speaker, the record was clear. Look at it right now.
The record is clear.
Record numbers.
The record is clear. Mr. Speaker. You are the party of the wealthy, of the born rich, and everyone else can go to hell.
Those in low pay the lowest numbers on record, Mr. Speaker. He talks about this non-dom thing. I think he's already spent the money that he claims he'd raised on 5 different things, Mr. Speaker, because it's the same old Labour Party.
No, your wife claimed non-dom status and tricked the British taxpayer out of millions of tax that she didn't pay, that we had to pay instead.
Enough last week. I'm certainly not having this continuous
British people had to pay.
So just be aware
she was a non-dom.
Somebody will be going
didn't
for
live
that
here, apparently.
She
did. Because it was a loophole. You paid 30 grand, you didn't have to pay any tax.
Let's be honest about what his refusal to scrap
Party
non-dom
discussion.
status means.
Yeah, Vendetti, you're absolutely right. We need a revolution.
That at every possible opportunity, he has voted to put taxes up on working people. While at the same time taking every possible opportunity to protect a tax avoidance scheme that helped his own finances.
Yes. So look at his little smile.
People across the
look at that little
country
grin on his
that
stupid
their
little
taxes
face.
must go up
see
so
that?
that his can stay low.
Mr. Speaker, the facts are these. The very wealthiest pay more tax and the poorest pay less tax under any year of the last Labour government, Mr. Speaker.
Why are you talking about the last Labour government? It was 20 years ago, mate. You've been in charge for 13 years.
The hypocrisy of it, as we saw last week, when it comes to his own special pension scheme.
His own special pension scheme. This guy's worth 700 million.
It's literally one law for him and a tax rise for everybody else.
That he had nothing to do with.
Mr. Speaker, here's the difference. I'd scrap his pension giveaway, whether it affected me or not. He refuses to scrap the non-dom status that benefits him and his family. I can see why he's attracted to this non-dom thing.
Billions spent on
this Prime Minister is so removed from the country that he boasted that he didn't know a single working class person. So insulated from reality.
Steals from the poor,
that he
gives to the
proudly told
rich.
a Tory garden party how he'd moved money from poorer areas and handed it to rich ones. So out of touch that he looks at a petrol pump and a debit card like they've just arrived from Mars. Is it any wonder that he smiles his way through the cost of living crisis while putting other people's taxes up? Is it any wonder he doesn't have a clue how food prices are hammering families across the country? And is it any wonder that under him people are paying more and more and getting less and less?
Mr. Speaker, we'll just look at what's happened just in this week, Mr. Speaker, where the Labour Party have put themselves. On Monday, in the other place, they decided to side with extremist protesters.
Protesters.
They sided with polluters, Mr. Speaker.
Protesters.
And tonight.
What are you talking about? Point of order.
And tonight we will see them siding with the people smugglers, Mr. Speaker. I tell you this, whilst we're in the business of sending back the 1,000th illegal migrant from Albania, Mr. Speaker, we're delivering cost of living payments to millions of households just yesterday.
No, you're not.
And today we've announced we put 20,000 more police officers.
It's a few hundred quid to pay a bill that's gone up by thousands.
We're siding with the British people, Mr. Speaker. That's what the Conservative
Look what we've
government
done.
does.
You know, I gave a penny to a homeless person yesterday. I gave a whole penny to a homeless person.
Mr. Speaker.
Aren't I great?
60 years ago, Goulburn Urban District Council wrote to the government about the urgent need for a bypass for my constituency of Lee.
Undertaker.
40 years ago, the
Hello, I'm an
central
Undertaker,
section
likes
of that
big little
bypass, the Atherley
jokes.
Way,
You
was
know, bit of
constructed.
Gallis humour.
But to this day, the bypass
in the
remains
morgue.
unfinished,
That's what I do.
leading to daily gridlock in some areas of the community. Will the Prime Minister support my proposals to complete the Atherley Way, and will he meet with me to discuss this further so we can get Lee moving again?
And what a
Mr. Speaker, I commend my honourable friends campaigning on this issue, and I know there have been a number of proposals for road improvements in his area. He will know that it's for the local highways authority to develop those plans, but I know a meeting is planned in June to move proposals forward, and I know he will take his energy and enthusiasm for his campaign to that meeting, and I wish him well.
We come to SNP spokesperson Stephen Leader.
Thank you,
Mr. Speaker.
Stephen Flynn.
Can I ask the Prime Minister to outline the safe and legal route available to a child refugee seeking to flee Sudan and come to the United Kingdom?
Good question.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I outlined earlier, our priority in Sudan, first and foremost, was to evacuate our diplomats and their families, which I'm very pleased. We were one of the first countries to be able to do, Mr. Speaker.
And not the people.
Since yesterday, we've been conducting a large-scale evacuation of British nationals. We have some of the largest numbers of British nationals on the ground, and rightly, and I'm sure the whole House will agree with me, that it is reasonable, legal and fair to prioritise those most vulnerable families, particularly those with elderly people in them, medical conditions, but also children.
There's only a couple thousand people there. You can get them out in the afternoon.
And I pay tribute to all
We've
those
got
who
a
are making
base
it possible.
we've got a British base in Cyprus that we can take them
But
to.
Mr. Speaker, to be clear, and I think everyone in the House is aware of this, children in Sudan are already dying. Now, whether it's a Tory slogan to stop the boats or a Labour slogan to stop small boats, we need some more humanity in this debate, rather than the race to the bottom, which we see here today. So can I ask the Prime Minister, now that he has confirmed that there is no safe and legal route, will he therefore confirm that it would be his government's intention to detain and deport a child refugee who flees Sudan and comes to the United Kingdom?
Mr. Speaker, in fact, because of the efforts of our aid teams, we've invested almost £250 million in humanitarian support in Sudan over the past 5 years.
That's not answering the question.
And Mr. Speaker,
that's not answering the question.
The honourable gentleman does it always, but actually, this country has a proud record of compassionately supporting
until
those
you came
who
along.
need our assistance. Just
not
over
while
the
you've been
last
in power,
few
mate.
years, we have welcomed almost 500,000 vulnerable people to our country, including many children, and it's that compassion that we want to make sure we continue, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so
which
answer
is
the
why
question.
It's precisely right that we make sure that our system is not exploited by those coming here illegally.
Oh, so the children who are coming here from Sudan are exploiting the system, are they, Rishi Sunak?
Speaker,
You absolute goblin!
Don't have an up-to-date local plan.
Oh God!
So that every day that goes past, we have speculative housing applications that put pressure on the infrastructure like GP surgery, schools and roads. Now, locally, the Lib Dems say it's the 300,000 housing target the government has. Yet the Lib Dems have a target of 380,000 houses now. So will the Prime Minister change the law to ensure that communities like Burbage, Barwell, Markfield and Market Bosworth get the infrastructure and protection they need for the houses that we need?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is right to point out the hypocrisy of the local Liberal Democrats on this
Remind me of those places that I'm supposed to
right to highlight this issue locally, because the new infrastructure levy does give local areas the power to deliver the local infrastructure that he supports and wants for his area, but also he's absolutely right to point out the importance of a local plan. Because it is precisely that having a local plan is what gives communities the power to ensure that development in their area is happening in the way that they want it to, and the council is failing in its duty to do that for its communities by not putting forward that local plan.
Liz Savile-Roberts.
Incredibly, any traveller wanting to go by train from North to South Wales has to go via England. Linking Wales north to south would cost £2 billion. Now, the PM talks about running away with other people's money, but his government is depriving Wales to the tune of £6 billion by ruling that north-south England rail links like HS2 somehow benefit Wales. Will he plead guilty to the Great Welsh train robbery?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable lady knows how transport matters are handled in Wales, and what I would say to her is that we do always want to work cooperatively with the Welsh government to see where we can deliver jointly for people in Wales. We're actually investing record sums in communities up and down Wales through the Levelling Up Fund and the Community Ownership Fund. We're happy to continue those conversations. Many of those are transportation projects, and I think hopefully she'll join me in saying what the people of Wales do not need is the Labour Welsh Government's plan to ban all building of new roads.
Yeah, no, they do need that because we're trying to protect the environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister back our local plans to reopen our much-loved Malvern Hills College? And does he agree that Warwickshire College Group should negotiate the sale in good faith and not resort to using public money to
Hyacinth
sue
Baldwin.
our district council.
Hello, I'm Harriet.
Prime Minister.
Have you ever met a Harriet who wasn't a Tory?
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for raising this issue. I, of course, recognise the valuable work that all colleges do in meeting local skills needs, and very much welcome local community groups working together to address gaps in the way that her local area is doing. My understanding is that my honourable friend, the Education Secretary, is in discussion with the college, and I know that my honourable friend will continue making representations to her.
Can we screw someone over
Fabian
today?
Hamilton.
Mr. Speaker, my constituent, Ian Greenwood, tragically lost his 12-year-old daughter in a road traffic collision that should never have happened. Ian's now campaigning for Leeds Vision Zero, which aims to end road deaths and serious injuries by 2040. We really have to make our roads much safer.
Yes.
So will the Prime Minister commit to giving local authorities sufficient funding in order to ensure that these vehicle collisions can never take a young life again?
Yes. Here.
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm incredibly sorry to hear about the
haven't
tragic
you?
loss
You
of
know.
Ian's daughter.
The economy
Of
go
course,
round.
we should do everything we can to improve road safety.
Fabian Hamilton, my
I know
MP.
actually at
Oh,
the
brilliant,
moment
Frank Puny.
we are doing
I
an
like him
enormous
already.
amount, and the statistics show that is improving, but we're always happy to look at where we can do more, and I know the
Wish
Transport
he
Secretary will
would
look
poo
into the
himself if he
suggestions
met a
raised
working
by
class
the honourable
person who
gentleman.
actually lives somewhere like St Helens.
Speaker, the
or
village of North of
Aston
Hall in my
Birmingham for a week.
constituency has about 1,000
Very
residents. Last year, North of Hall Hotel on the edge of the village was bought. And there are
Gammon.
now
So this
proposals
is,
to house
sex
400
pest gammon.
single male
See, this guy,
migrants in the
he
building.
shouldn't still be
and in
an
shipping
MP.
containers
He's lost,
stacked around the
he's
ground.
lost his whip.
The village has
from
one
the Tory
small
party
shop,
for being a
no
sex
transport
pest.
links, and a health board in complete
Shut up,
meltdown.
sex pest. Shut up,
Can the
you
Prime
slab
Minister
of gammon.
facilitate a meeting for
You
myself
slab
and
of
some
gammony
local
sex
residents
pest.
with the
All
Home
Tories
Secretary
look like gammon
to hear the
or
concerns of the
Undertakers,
local
or a
residents
bit of both.
who are worried that the government just
Prime
isn't
gammon
listening
here.
to them?
Shut up, go away.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman raises exactly why we need to take action, because it's not right that our
Actually,
local
sex
hotels
pests
in all our
should be in
communities
jail.
are being used to such a degree
in jail.
to house
Lock 'em
illegal
up.
asylum seekers, not least because
Lock
it's costing
him
the
up.
British taxpayer something like £5.5 or £6 million a day. We want to put an end to that, and that's why we're bringing forward legislation that will enable us to swiftly detain and send back those who should not be here. But I will make
Imagine
sure
if
that he
you'd
gets a meeting with the immigration
essay or
minister
something
as he
and
needs.
you went to your MP and
Trust and
Chris
Trust
Pincher.
figures out today show that their food banks gave out a record number of meals over the past year. It's nearly 3 million meals, 1 million of which went to children. Now, the Prime Minister's fortunate. He's a wealthy man. But all these families want to be able to do is to put food on their table, to be able to feed their own children without having to resort to food banks. Does he think that's too much to ask?
Yes, he does. He absolutely does.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said previously, we absolutely do want anyone to have to rely on a food bank. But whilst there are people who do use them, I'm very grateful to all of those who volunteer their time to make sure that they are providing their local communities.
I don't know
We've
about
put
automated
substantial
cars,
provision in
number three.
place,
We'll have a
not
conversation
least,
about that at some
infant free
point.
school
We'll have a
meals
bit
and
sus
broader
about
free
them.
school meals, which are helping almost 2 million children. But also last year, the investment in the Holiday
Badnock
Activity and
or
Food
Grab
Programme,
Omen.
which provides not just food but also activities outside of term time. And we'll continue to do everything we can to help those in low pay, which is why we're raising the national living wage to record levels. And I'm pleased to say that those living in poverty today is 2 million lower than when we first came into office.
Caroline Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
She has no chin.
E-cigarettes were introduced as a stop smoking device, but they're remarkably
Nice
cheap,
bucket here.
brightly coloured vapes with flavours such as unicorn milkshake, bubble gum, and green gummy bear have proved remarkably attractive to children, hooking them on a lifetime of potentially harmful nicotine addiction. Will my honourable friend meet with me to talk about how work across government departments can help to stop our children becoming hooked on vapes? And will he back my 10-minute rule bill to ban disposable vapes?
Prime Minister.
Can I commend my honourable friend for her work in this area? I absolutely recognise the concern that she raises, both on the environmental impact of disposable vapes, but also their appeal to children. DHSC have announced a call for evidence to look at reducing youth vaping, including vape appearance, flavours, and marketing. We've also been clear that all electrical waste should be disposed of properly, and DEFRA are looking actively at what changes in legislation might be needed to ensure that the vaping sector foots the bill for the collection and treatment of their used products.
Vicky Foxcroft.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we celebrate the lives of Lily Savage and Dame Edna Everage, Turning Point UK are planning to protest at a drag storytime event in my constituency on Saturday for the third time this year.
Oh, for God's
These events
sake.
are friendly, inclusive opportunities for children to hear a story and learn about equality. Turning Point UK members, by contrast, seek to intimidate our young people. They share misleading images on social media, implying the events are inappropriate. So will the Prime Minister condemn Turning Point UK's attempts to spread hatred and division in my constituency and across the country?
Pressure group or whatever, Turning Point.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of the specific allegations the Honourable Lady brings to light, but in general, we should treat everybody with respect and understanding and compassion, Mr. Speaker, and people should be allowed to gather and associate freely within the bounds of the law and in tune. But when it comes to children, as we said, it's important that the material that children are exposed to in classrooms is sensitive and age-appropriate, and that's why we're reviewing the RHSE guidance currently.
Queue up for free beans with the
Thank you,
Tories.
Mr. Speaker. This year marks the 400th anniversary of the publication of Shakespeare's first folio. And his plays are not only a central part of our national culture, but many people around the world see them as a beacon of hope in darkest times.
Yeah, but I mean, you won't be able to have any Shakespeare plays because they have cross-dressing in them.
The director of the Shakespeare
Viola's a boy who
Institute
pretends
in
to be a girl,
Ukraine,
pretends to be a boy.
who told stories
You
of
lump of foul
actors,
deformity.
directors and scholars putting on Shakespeare plays in air raid shelters in Ukraine as an act of defiance against Russian
men dressed as
aggression
women,
and
so we can't
bombs.
have that.
So would
Let's
the
get rid of
Prime Minister
pantomimes as
agree
well.
with me that notwithstanding
Shakespeare
the
was great.
sound and fury of domestic politics, that in Shakespeare's works we have a force for freedom in a world often dominated by the brutality and tyranny of oppressive regimes?
What, like yours, you bolting bunch of beastliness?
Honourable friend in his comments, and coincidentally, one of the first gifts that I gave President Zelensky was an old copy of Henry V. And so I think his comments are well made, and that's why we're
The
training
one that doesn't have any
and
cross-dressing
arming
in,
forces
obviously,
with the
not like
equipment
Merchants
they
of
need
Venice or
to
12
push
Nights,
back
'cause-
Russian forces. And we know,
that would
and then the whole
confuse a
House will join
child.
me in saying that the people of Ukraine's incredible strength and inspiring
Yeah, book
bravery
burner.
will ultimately
Book
defeat
burner, Rishi.
tyranny.
Go burn some books. Go burn the works of
Thank you,
Shakespeare.
Mr. Speaker. This month marks 23 years since the passing of the late, great Bernie Grant, a former member of this House and the founder of the UK reparations movement in the UK. In his last Prime Minister's questions before his death, he asked for an apology to the people of African descent, living and dead, for our country's role in slavery and colonialism. But since then, Prime Ministers and heads of state have only ever expressed sorrow or deep regret. These are not sentiments that are befitting one of the greatest atrocities in human history. And there's been no acknowledgement of the wealth that has been amassed, or the fact that our country took out the largest loan it ever has to pay off the slave owners and not the enslaved. So I want to ask the Prime Minister today if he will do what Bernie Grant asked all those years ago, what I have asked and what countless others have asked since, and offer a full and meaningful apology for our country's role in slavery and colonialism, and commit to reparatory justice.
Well, no, Mr. Speaker. That what I think our focus should now be on doing.
Straight up, first word out of his horrible,
history in all its parts, not running away from it.
Hole in his
but
face
right
and
now,
in his
making
mouth.
sure that we have a society which is inclusive and tolerant of people from all backgrounds. That's something that we on this House, our side of the House, are committed to doing and will continue to deliver. But trying to unpick our history is not the right way forward, and it's not something that we will focus our energies on.
No, he just stood up and said.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Will you apologise?
The Prime Minister will recall his visit to Rugby to see our great work in delivering new homes and the new community of Holton, where 1,000 of 6,000 homes are now occupied. But regrettably, urgent care services at our local hospital of St Cross are not keeping pace with this growth. And as a consequence, 80,000 of my constituents now live more than 50 minutes drive from a major A&E unit. May I therefore invite the Prime Minister to return to Rugby to see for himself the need to upgrade our emergency care provision.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's absolutely vital that people can access the NHS services they need, particularly emergency care, and that's why we're investing an extra £1 billion, a dedicated funding to support urgent and emergency care services. My honourable friend will know that the specific provision is a matter for local NHS commissioners and providers, because plans for those things need to be developed locally and take into account the expanding needs of local populations. And I know that my honourable friend will continue to engage with his local NHS trust to ensure the views of his constituents and communities are well known and adequately provided for.
Angela Cromwell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Don't
Prime
forget white
Minister, every
slavery.
day I meet with
In the Roman
constituents
era.
struggling to make ends meet, food banks barely managing to meet the demands, households and businesses up and down this country struggling to meet their energy bills. Yet the Bank of England has already announced that it is likely to increase interest rates once again, which will affect the poorest most and hike up mortgage rates once again. Does the Prime Minister, after 13 years of Conservatives government, agree with the Bank of England's chief economist that the poorest should just accept being poorer?
Mr. Speaker, we're doing an enormous amount to support those who most need our help with the cost of living and some of the pressures, particularly on energy bills that they face. That's
I've got
why
a degree in history, mate,
to tax
from
the
Redbrick
windfall profits of
University,
energy
from Russell
companies
Group
and use
University,
that
and I've
money
visited
to help
every
pay
country
around
in the world.
half of a typical
Don't start me
family's
on this,
energy bill.
because I will
That is
win.
support
I
worth
will crush you.
£1,500
There were no
that
white
applies
slaves
across
in the
United
British Empire.
Kingdom. And on top of
End
that,
of.
there are direct payments going to the most vulnerable families in our society. Just yesterday, the first of those payments was put out, £300, the first of 3 payments, and that went to 1 in 3 households, Mr. Speaker, including many in Scotland, and that is our Conservative government delivering for the people of Scotland and making sure they have the help they need to manage some of the pressures that they're facing.
So Robert Goodwill.
It's got to really help Scotland.
In Yorkshire, we say you should judge a person by the company that they keep.
Be a bit like helping
So
Wales.
what would
or
the
the
Prime
North.
Minister's view of an individual who can not only bear to spend more than 10 minutes in the presence of Vladimir Putin, but refers to him as a dear friend?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think our views on President Putin are well known. His illegal war in Ukraine has caused untold misery for many people. It's caused a humanitarian crisis and is still ongoing in defiance of international condemnation and sanction. Mr. Speaker, we will do everything we can to bring those responsible for war crimes to justice, continue to support Ukraine militarily, and make sure that we can support them all the way to victory, Mr. Speaker. And I know that the whole House is united in wanting that outcome.
Sir George Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the chronic lack of capacity,
Jim, I can't take any credit for that. That's all Phil Morehouse is doing.
Prime Minister will
Yeah,
be
thanks,
aware
Phil.
that community pharmacies can help deal with minor illnesses, but there is a problem. On average, 10 pharmacies close every month in England. Will he take urgent action to prevent further closures and commission a properly funded pharmacy first service for minor illnesses?
Mr. Speaker, a rare agreement between the honourable gentleman and myself that I am a wholehearted champion and believer in the role that community pharmacists can play, and we want to make sure that they can.
You don't know what a community is, mate. Your community, your entire life has been a gated, gilded commune.
Continue to do everything we can to support
incredibly
I know
rich people
firsthand how
who like to
respected
play
they are
games.
in their
That's all you're doing
communities,
here,
and I think they
is
can do
playing
more for us
games
over time.
with real people's lives.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, after a 15-year break, Wrexham Association Football Club is back in
Bloody hell, did Wrexham vote Conservative? Oh my God.
Join
me
in
congratulating
everyone at the club, including the loyal supporters and the owners, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney.
Full-time professional football
And
league.
does he agree that Wrexham is no longer a neglected place, but quickly becoming a jewel in the crown of the United Kingdom?
Yeah, because of a Canadian and an American who invested in the club.
join my honourable friend in congratulating everyone at Wrexham, from the owners to the players to supporters and everyone in the community. It's been an incredible ride. We've all enjoyed watching them, and we wish them every future success,
in Philadelphia
and
and
Deadpool.
Deadpool.
They are indeed a jewel in the crown, and she deserves enormous credit for championing them in this place.
Peter Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After an investigation ordered by the Prime Minister himself, a senior Conservative MP was found guilty of bullying, found guilty of behaviour that was persistently aggressive and intimidating. The MP in question then attempted to blame his victims.
Yes.
And a whole string of Conservative MPs queued up to defend him, suggesting that his conduct was not only acceptable, but was actually good management practice. What does it say about the Prime Minister's own values that he has done nothing to distance himself from those comments?
Yeah, go on. What about your values? Go on.
Mr. Speaker, when formal complaints were made, I rightly initiated an independent investigation, and as soon as it reported, action was taken. That's the right thing to do, to follow due process, and then let the process play out, Mr. Speaker. But I do think it is somewhat odd to be getting lectures on values right now from the SNP.
That completes Prime Minister's questions.
That's it. And then they cut the audio. And then it's back to... let's get rid of this. And then I'll make me big. Make me big so you can see me. So I'm not just like little in the corner. And then I'm going to shut down that bloody BBC feed because it's destroying my input there. Oh my God, what a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare this absolute shower of shockingly annoying Tories are. Get the mic back in, Graham. Get the mic back into shot. As if Sunak ever watched a soccer game that wasn't a football opportunity, indeed. I watched a funny bit with, what's his name, Rob McEnany and... Ryan Reynolds, where they were talking about the fact that in Britain that they call it soccer, and he's like, they don't call it soccer. He's like, yeah, but they made up the name, and he's like, yeah, but they don't call it. Yeah, but why make up the name if that's what? It was quite funny. Anyway, what was that all about? Democracy? I don't know, mate. I don't know. That completes Prime Minister's question time. Mine's a pint. Yeah, they can go to one of the many, many bars in the Palace of Westminster for a pint now. Bars that are open all night. You remember when bars were not allowed to open, when pubs had to close at 11 o'clock? Yeah. Well, the bars in the House of Commons stayed open all night as long as the debate went on. Great days. Starmer needs to make changes when Labour takes over. Serious changes. Yeah. I mean, first of all... They can't let the narrative be shaped by the Conservatives. We had lived in 13 years now of the narrative. What we talk about on these shows, on social media, amongst our friends, at the pub, what we talk about is so often the language and the narratives created by the Tories. So stuff like levelling up, Brexit, the whole concept of Brexit, that was invented by the Tories, like it would be a good thing. And for too often, we're being reactive to what the Tories are saying and doing, rather than being proactive and coming up with our own solutions or different solutions to the problems that face us. So we're not always chasing the error, which is what the Tories want us to be doing. They want us to be running around, chasing our own tails, in these mad culture wars that they create in order to distract, as Marina Perker said to Jacob Rees-Mogg last night on GB News, to distract from the fact that the Tories have failed. Every single conceivable metric, the Tories have absolutely 100% failed in everything that they've tried to do. The one thing that you could maybe argue that, that they did this, maybe gay marriage, so marriage equality, but that was more of a Lib Dem policy, that the Lib Dem said, right, we're going to support you in that first Parliament in 2010 till 2015. We'll support you if you support us making marriage equal, which was great. Thank you for that, Lib Dems. But then they also hiked up the tuition fees, which wasn't great. We need to end the party political system and need a decent constitution, plus get rid of the monarchy. Yeah, we need a revolution for all that, Richard. And I'm quite up for it. I am quite up for it. I'm older than you, Graham. Won't say how much. I've lived under the Tories even longer. I'm so sorry, Freckle Puny. They've got to end. In the next election, the Tories, it's not just good enough to beat them. We need to destroy the party. We need to make it so no one even considers being a Conservative Party at any point in the future. That's how absolutely they need to be destroyed. Because we can't go on like this. I don't want, in the rest of my life, say I live another 40 years, God willing, I don't want 30 of those years to be under Tory governments. I can't take it. I won't even live. I'll leave. I'll leave this country. I can't leave this planet, unfortunately. Not that way anyway. But yeah, I don't want to foist that on to the next generations coming up. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, the whole thing's quite painful that these absolute clowns, charlatans, con men, con women, thieves, brigands, deceivers, I mean, they are the worst of humanity and they run this country. They're the worst of us. That should be the title of the show about the Conservatives. Instead of the last of us, it's the worst of us. Or maybe the last as in, these people are so last, as in awful. It's kind of painful. If the party system remains, the Tories will be back. Yeah, we need to get PR. That's the first step to getting rid of the Tories forever because they can't exist as they are. And it's very hard to form, you worry about the extremists on either side and whether the main party will have to team up with the extremists in order to get their stuff through. But you find time and time again that actually any kind of coalition with extremists, think along the lines of, I don't know, the DUP and the Conservatives, it's usually quite a contentious relationship and it never really lasts very long, as we saw with the DUP and the Conservatives. They had to push for another election so they could get rid of the DUP. The DUP wanted another election. Idiots. The DUP are the biggest dupes in the world, and it's quite interesting that the initials of their party create the first few letters of the word duped, because they are dupes. Indeed. We need to consign them to the dustbin of history, says the lefty boater, and I agree 100%. Anyway, this was Safe for Work PMQs. I only let out 2 swears in that one. Oh, it's so hard not to swear. It's like a challenge. It really is a challenge. But if you would like to contribute to the tip jar or the swear jar or whatever you want to call it, head over to patreon.com/Labour Social and become a patron today and help this channel grow and support this channel. You can also become a YouTube member, and for YouTube members and patrons, there will be exclusive content going online over the next month or so. That's just for you, or you'll be able to see it first before everybody else. So look forward to that. I won't be back tomorrow. It will have Phil Morehouse here for Morning Brew at 9:30. I'll be back on Friday. But in the meantime, there'll be a few more videos going up online from Labour Social, from me and the team here. And well, they're not here. The team who are supporting me to do this channel. And yeah, we're still trying to get it off the ground. We're still trying to make this a forum for discussion involving you, so you can come along and say what you like and it'll get hopefully read out, and yeah, onward and upward with that kind of thing. And also, let's get together and yeet the Tories into the deep blue sea where they belong. All right, so thanks for watching. Thanks to all my wonderful patrons and all of my YouTube members and everyone who's left a message in the chat, and except the one who said there were white slaves. You can go away. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.